todos muito bem-vindos. Eu sou Roberta Arinelli, diretora médica da Origin Health e editora-executiva da MIT Technology Review Brasil. Eu tenho o prazer de conversar com o professor associado e consultor em metabolismo ósseo na Universidade de Oxford, Dr. Kassim Javaid. Dr. Kassim, a osteoporose traz um impacto negativo para a sociedade em relação à qualidade de vida, impacto clínico, mortalidade, incapacidades de longo prazo e questões econômicas. Nesse cenário, como é feito o tratamento da osteoporose no Reino Unido? Como os pacientes com alto risco de fratura são tratados?
Thank you for that question. I think it varies depending across the country. In the ideal scenario, you would have seamless patient journey from identification, maybe in secondary or primary care settings, but really long-term care provided by the community. We have had a number of initiatives that support this with NICE technology assessments, most recently with the anabolic romosozumab, highlighting the need to identify patients not only with osteoporosis, but also at very high risk of fracture. We're still in the early stages, but it looks like there will be a step change in provision where we will accelerate the identified patients at very high risk so they can be rapidly assessed and started on effective treatment as soon as possible, while maintaining a safe and robust pathway for patients who are at high or medium risk.
Revendo o caso do romosozumab, o NICE, Agência de Avaliação de Tecnologias em Saúde do Reino Unido, publicou em novembro de 2021 um documento que não recomendava o romosozumab no tratamento da osteoporose grave. Mas o NICE revogou a decisão provisória e, em abril de 2022, passou a recomendar o romosozumab como opção no tratamento da osteoporose grave, pós-menopausa, com alto risco de fratura e que atende a determinados critérios. Quais motivações levaram a essa reversão da recomendação da agência?
I don't know for sure. I can only speculate. I think there is a general underappreciation of the magnitude of risk patients face after a fracture, and we call this the imminent fracture period. There is also an underestimation of the damage subsequent fractures have on patients' lives, carers, and the healthcare system. And after the initial response from NICE, there was a very positive, robust, constructive response from the widest community possible. We had professionals, we had the Royal Osteoporosis Society, other professional bodies like the Royal College of Physicians, the Bone Research Society, all highlighting to NICE that there seemed to be a mismatch between the approaches taken and what's really happening on the front door, where many hospitals are seeing patients at extremely high risk of another fracture. And it seems unreasonable that these patients shouldn't be offered an anabolic therapy such as romosozumab.
Como a inclusão do romosozumab pelo NICE contribuiu para o tratamento da osteoporose no Reino Unido?
Well, it's still early days. In Scotland, it's been approved for a while and has had led to quite good take-up. There seems to be a very easy pathway for clinical teams to identify patients at very high risk, and then a pathway for them to receive the treatment on time and effectively, and then follow on sequencing. We're still in the early days in England and Wales. Wales is slightly ahead of England with approvals not requiring the 90-day from the final assessment document. But I would say in the next 6 months, we'll really get a feel for how services have adapted to the change in recommendations. I think the next 2 months will be critical as services look at the recommendations from NICE. It's a fundamental change because it's offered first line for those at very high risk. This is based on the cost effectiveness model, and I think it finally leads us as clinicians to be satisfied that the regulatory bodies truly understand the impact of imminent fracture risk and actually its prioritization in healthcare delivery.
No meio acadêmico, quais tendências de pesquisa podem ser destacadas para pacientes com osteoporose e alto risco de fraturas?
I suppose the research is in two parts. Actually, it could be in three parts. The first is the epidemiology, where we're very good now at identifying patients at very high risk. And there are new algorithms coming out for the FRAX calculator. And while we're waiting for that, there are guidelines from NOG, which have just come out, which recommend certain specific groups to help us identify those at very high risk. Then we have the evidence from the registration trials, which give both the benefit and also the risks and safety data, so we can target patient populations very well. And finally, we have the growing service improvement or quality improvement models. And here we have an increasing volume of data and evidence and good practice for how, when we start to change clinical pathways, we can effectively look at them to make sure they are delivering on our expected milestones or metrics. I think it's this linkage of both the epidemiology of the scale of the burden, the evidence from the trials for who the right patient is, and then a mechanism to make sure that these research findings are translated into clinical practice through an iterative pathway where we're constantly looking at how we're doing, finding the gaps and improving on them. And underpinning all of this is the fracture liaison service database, which will already collect romosozumab as one of the treatments, and hopefully will be updated soon to collect not only treatment on romosozumab, but also the sequence of therapy afterwards.
Você gostaria de deixar uma mensagem sobre o futuro do tratamento da osteoporose para o Brasil?
I think you have a fantastic opportunity in Brazil. There are already activities led by the LATAM IMF office with Monica Callo. You have three very good mentors who will be able to share their experience and expertise in setting up FLSs. And this is very important for people in Brazil. Many clinicians understand and appreciate the importance of FLS, fracture liaison services, as being a mechanism for identifying high-risk patients. But they struggle with the next step. This is not part of their day job. And what we have in Brazil is a team, a network of mentors and resources supported by the fantastic work of the International Osteoporosis Foundation to help support local sites to develop their FLSs as they get started, but also become improved. And I encourage everyone to visit the IOF LATAM website, find and seek out your Brazilian mentors who will be able to give you the support you need to take FLSs forward in your country, whether you're just starting, you've just heard about fracture liaison services and you want to set them up, or whether you have established fracture liaison services and looking for support for how to integrate new therapies into the pathway or other changes to improve its effectiveness and efficiency.
Dr. Kassim, muito obrigada por essa conversa. Foi uma honra ouvir de você as atualizações em cuidados com a osteoporose no Reino Unido.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to speak to you as well.